Revealed, Billionaire disguises as homeless. Requests leftovers. What the waitress did is touching. Alex Carter stood at the entrance of Harry S. Diner, rain cascading down his worn-out trench coat. Once the titan of Silicon Valley, now a specter of his former self, he hesitated, heart racing and mind spinning in confusion. This bustling diner in Chicago was chaotic, the clatter of dishes and the murmur of laughter an alien symphony to his ears. Memories of conference rooms filled with elite executives echoed in his mind, starkly contrasted against the chill of his present reality. As a disheveled figure entangled in an illusion, he doubted his resolve. Was he truly ready to embrace the vulnerability of this facade? Lily, the waitress, appeared like a beacon amidst the noise. Her eyes sparkled with a muted fire, weary yet defiant. Juggling work to support her sick mother, she personified resilience in the face of unrelenting adversity, an avatar of the American spirit. Alex watched as she smiled at customers, serving plates with a grace that was nothing short of awe-inspiring. But could someone like him, so deeply ashamed of the ego that once fueled his ambition, approach her without crumbling into a heap of self-loathing? It felt wrong even to occupy the same air. Timidly, he sidled up to the counter, feeling the weight of judgment as he requested leftover food. Instead of scorn, he was met with a warm, inviting smile and a generous steaming plate. The kindness hit him like a freight train, stirring forgotten emotions. Why was it so simple? This small exchange felt monumental, casting the facade around him into a light that shone on neglected values. Could compassion really bridge the chasm of his disillusionment? Over the next days, he returned to the diner, compelled yet terrified. His eyes fixated on Lily as she deftly navigated between tables, balancing plates and the burdens of her life. Each interaction deepened the rift within him. He listened to her dreams of a better life, and with every story she shared, he felt more entangled in the web of honesty. Yet, as conversations bloomed, guilt festered within. Was he exploiting her kindness, remaining hidden behind a mask that offered him solace, but at her expense? One day, seated in a booth with his heart pounding, Alex overheard his old friends, their laughter echoing through the diner as they mocked the very people Lily represented. Each derisive joke felt like a dagger, reminding him of the distance he had traveled from the person he used to be. Rage boiled beneath his skin, yet it mingled with an unsettling dread. Who had become the true embodiment of suffering, the privileged mogul feasting on excess, or the struggling waitress whose humanity shone through adversity? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let us continue. Internal turmoil surged as he faced the moral abyss. Reveal his identity, a potential fork in the road through which he could dismantle the lies hovering between him and Lily, or remain shrouded in anonymity, a coward hiding behind the mask of poverty. Muscle tension clawed at his shoulders, breathing irregular as he wrestled with the truth the man he was versus the man he wished to be. The diner's cozy ambience grew oppressive, stifling him as he grappled with the enormity of his decision. With the weight of unspoken truths swirling in his chest, he stole a glance at Lily, her smile lighting the darkest corners of his despair. The chime of the bell above the door seemed to signal a moment of reckoning. He was standing on a precipice, a choice that could unravel everything. Would he emerge from the shadows, risking everything for a chance at redemption, or stay cloaked in this new identity that both liberated and imprisoned him? The clock ticked, and Alex felt an undeniable pull to step forward. Uncertainty clawed at him, the air thickening with the promise of transformation. The air crackled with tension as he turned to leave, knowing he would need to confront himself before confronting her. Would he fade away into the mist, or find the courage to break through the illusion, uncovering the uncharted territory of vulnerability and humility? Each breath felt heavier as he walked towards the future, the diner fading into the distance behind him. The chill in the air seemed to cling to Alex as he stepped onto the sidewalk, each raindrop a reminder of the weight he carried. The roar of the diner faded, replaced by the chaotic symphony of the city. His heart echoed the hum of traffic, a frantic rhythm that matched his spiraling thoughts. What was he doing? Every moment spent as a mere shadow of the man he used to be deepened a sense of surreal betrayal. A war raged within him. One side yearned for liberation, while the other clung to the familiar chains of his past. As he walked aimlessly, shadows flickered beneath the neon glow of storefronts. People bustled by, oblivious to his turmoil, immersed in their own lives. This was the world he used to command, yet now he felt encased in glass, visible but untouched. The encounter with Lily haunted him. Her kindness stood in stark contrast to the world he once turned away from, a world he now ran parallels with, hope against despair, authenticity against pretense. It dawned on him. His facade was not merely a disguise to escape. It had morphed into a mirror reflecting the failure of his former self. Alex remembered his late-night conversations with business partners about ethical commerce, innovation that served the community, idealistic plans buried beneath layers of profits and self-interest. With each step he took, the resentment he had fostered toward his old life tangled with a burgeoning desire for honesty. The next day, returning to the diner was like facing an audition. His heart pounded like a drum in an audience waiting in expectation. Would he be able to confront Lily, reveal who he truly was, or would his fears render him mute, a mere fragment of sorrowful nostalgia? A deep breath steadied his resolve, and with it came clarity. The promise of redemption loomed ahead. Behind the counter, Lily served another table, laughter escaping like notes from a piano. She was engrossed in the rhythm of her task, yet something seemed different today. Her usual defiance flickered with uncertainty, as if the weight of dwindling hope rested heavily on her shoulders. That realization pierced Alex deeper than anything else. Here was a woman striving to make her dreams tangible while he stood paralyzed in his own. It was time to choose where he would stand. Alex found a seat at the same booth from days past, watching the ebb and flow of life around him. Serving fresh coffee, Lily paused and caught his eye. He felt a jolt at the connection, like a thread of fate pulling taut. At that moment, he understood this was not just a revelation about his identity, but a harrowing awakening to responsibility. The mask he wore needed to be shed, not just for his sake, but for hers too. A cacophony of fears clashed, reinforcing his instinct to retreat. What if Lily felt betrayed? What if revealing his truth fractured whatever bond they had begun to forge? Yet another part of him screamed for authenticity. To stand naked in a world of pretenses had to be his next step. "Lily," he called, voice trembling with both fear and determination. The diner buzzed around them, but in that instant they existed in isolation. Her gaze flicked to him, curiosity mingled with concern. The warmth of her smile faded into a question. Could she sense his turmoil? The air thickened, pregnant with unspoken words, as he prepared to share his truth. Would this be the moment he finally embraced the tangled threads of his identity? Would he risk everything for a sliver of honesty? A sudden crash from the kitchen startled them both, breaking the fragile tension. Plates shattered on the floor, a cacophony of sound disrupting the fragile moment he attempted to carve. He breathed deeply, readying himself once more. The time had come. He could either succumb to chaos or delve deeper into the truth that had beckoned him so fiercely. But before he could utter another syllable, the bell jangled, and a heavily built man entered, his presence radiating an air of authority that turned heads. Alex felt an icy shadow wash over him as dread raced through his veins. The confrontation was shifting. This time, it was not just about revealing his secrets, but facing the unexpected consequences of his past. Would he be able to reclaim his life, Or would this new threat expose everything he had fought to shield? Every nerve in Alex's body electrified as the man's silhouette blocked the entrance, his formidable stature demanding attention. The air thickened, charged with an unknown tension. The world around him blurred, every sound fading into an indistinct murmur. He felt exposed, acutely aware of the vulnerability coursing through him. This was no ordinary customer. Beneath that imposing frame lay an echo from his past, one he had desperately tried to shake off. Jack. The name slipped involuntarily from his lips, barely a whisper, but heavy with recognition. The sharp edge of past decisions pricked at his consciousness. Jack had been a key player in the corporate games. Alex had once thrived on an era defined by cutthroat ambition, deception veiled as success. An unnerving knot formed in his stomach. What did Jack want? As the man strode towards the counter, Alex's instincts screamed at him to retreat into the shadows of anonymity. He couldn't afford the spotlight. Not here, not now. But retreating meant relinquishing the very authenticity he craved. Instead, his heart urged him forward, a wild beat of defiance against the retreating tide of fear. He needed to confront his past, regain control, not only over his present, but even his future. "Lily," he called again, this time with firmness that both steadied him and brought her over. She approached, wiping her hands on her apron, her eyes flitting between him and the approaching figure. "Stay close," he murmured, as the gravity of the moment bore down on him. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice a smooth pull back into reality. "Just stay close," he repeated, his focus unwavering from Jack, who had now reached the counter, imposing and confident. "Nice place you've got here," Jack remarked, surveying the diner with an inscrutable expression. Something about his tone felt off, as if his words were coated in irony. "You sure do know how to pick 'em." Alex felt the heat of anger rise within him, a flicker of the defiance that had begun to grow into a flame. In that instant, he realized that his past was only as powerful as he allowed it to be. Jack's presence might signal a potential threat, but Alex could no longer be an unwilling participant in the narrative of his own life. "Why are you here, Jack?" The words escaped his mouth before he could stop them, a challenge not born solely from fear, but from a newfound courage he was unwilling to suppress. Jack's smile was tight, a predatory grin that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. "Let us just say the past has a funny way of catching up with you, doesn't it?" The challenge lingered in the air. Alex could feel the weight of Lily's gaze beside him, the curiosity and concern evident in her eyes. This confrontation would not only expose his past, but would also perhaps define his emerging identity. Was he merely a remnant of the man he once was? Or could he pivot from this instant and prove he was more? "Do you want something?" He pressed, anger flaring in his chest, urging him to reclaim the narrative. "I'm not interested in whatever game you're trying to play." Jack chuckled softly, tilting his head, seemingly amused by Alex's bravado. It was the last response Alex expected, one that distilled the tension in the air. The laughs from patrons around them swelled in the background, oblivious to the undercurrent of conflict. This moment had the potential to fracture Alex's resolve or fortify it. Standing firm against his past was vital, not only for himself but for Lily and the connection they had begun to forge. What boundaries was he willing to draw to protect the newfound sense of self he'd begun to realize? The realization dawned his evolution was entwined with these very encounters, with confronting what he had long avoided. "I'm not who you think I am," he stated, asserting his right to reclaim his story. Silence settled as Jack regarded him intently, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. The nonverbal confrontation ignited a question in both men who held the true power in this exchange, the puppet or the puppeteer. Before Jack could respond, the door swung shut, a gust of chilly air sweeping through the diner. In that stark moment, Alex felt the shift. He had stepped into a new realm of his identity, one where fear no longer dictated the narrative. But the question loomed larger now: would this stand yield liberation or escalate the tension? As the diner buzzed around them, the stakes were palpable. In the depths of unresolved conflict, Alex realized the real battle had only just begun. Would he follow the path of truth, or were the shadows of his past ready to claim him once more? The air crackled with unspoken tension as Alex and Jack faced off, the diner's sounds fading into an empty backdrop, framing their standoff. Alex felt a swell of desperation bubbling within him, longing to break free from the chains of his past. As Jack observed him, a sense of urgency stirred deep inside Alex. Could he truly reshape his identity in the shadow of someone who had once held so much power over him? What are you really after, Jack? Alex demanded again, determined to strip away the layers of pretense. His defiance was hard-earned, a testament to the struggle he had endured to shed the remnants of his former life. Jack leaned against the counter casually, the mockery in his demeanor grating on Alex's nerves. Relax. I'm just here to talk. The insinuation hung heavy between them, tainted by their shared history. Talk, or manipulate. The accusation slipped out, a spark illuminating the depths of his uncertainty. The man before him wasn't just a ghost from his past. He embodied the darker aspects Alex had fought to flee. At that moment, a flicker of doubt danced in the recesses of his mind. Had he grown enough to stand his ground against Jack? Was he truly willing to confront the demons that had haunted him for years? The diner bustled around them, oblivious to the storm brewing within. Lily's supportive presence loomed nearby, a steady reminder that he wasn't alone in this. The connection they had started to build felt at stake, hinging on this pivotal moment. You think you can just erase our history? Jack's voice sliced through Alex's thoughts, laced with contempt. You don't get to ignore what we've built and destroy together. No, I get to redefine it. Alex shot back, summoning a courage he didn't fully comprehend until that instant. The vehemence pierced the air, transforming from words into an affirmation that sent thrills rushing through him. Jack's expression shifted, curiosity and disdain mingling on his face. Is that so? And how do you plan to do that? By hiding in a diner? Something clicked within Alex, igniting an internal revelation. The diner, the homeliness it offered, affirmed the choices he had made to distance himself from his former ambitions. He was no longer willing to let Jack or anyone else dictate his self-worth. I'm not hiding. Alex's voice softened but steadied, a newfound clarity resonating within him. I'm building something real, something of value. He realized in that moment that the measure of his life wasn't defined by past failures, but by accepted truths and current choices. The sense of empowerment washed over him, moments of doubt giving way to a more profound understanding of his trajectory. Jack's intimidation faded as strength took its place. This confrontation could forge the foundation for the person he aspired to be. Lily's eyes sparkled with encouragement, urging him to keep pushing against the weight of his history. It became evident that every moment he spent aiming to confront Jack was contributing to his evolution. Before he could process his thoughts any further, Jack straightened and leaned in. Let us see if the cowardice runs in the family, then. The words, though blunt, felt like a challenge, one that Alex suddenly wanted to rise to. The more he stood his ground, the firmer his footing became, battling not just for himself, but for the shared future he wanted to create with Lily. Yet, Jack's presence hinted at deeper complications ahead. He would need to find a way to navigate through this confrontation without losing the progress he had made. A storm was brewing, and Alex faced the possibility of uncovering more than just an old rivalry. The potentially darker corners of his own identity were waiting to be examined. As the meaningful silence settled again, tension thickened. A question hung unasked above the diner. How far was Alex willing to go to solidify his newfound strength? In the silence that followed, Alex felt the burgeoning need for clarity, a clear path that would safeguard his evolving identity and protect what he held dear. Mayhap the real test was only beginning, and shadows from his past were preparing their next move. With Jack looming menacingly, the space between them charged with conflict, Alex realized that every whisper of the past had the potential to reshape his future. Would he dodge the dangers closing in, or would he confront them head-on? Time was running out, and he could not allow fear to dictate his next steps. The silence stretched, thick and foreboding, yet Alex felt an electric pulse of determination thrumming inside him. A fire he hadn't fully recognized was now igniting, pushing him beyond the confines of his past. Jack's provocations, meant to unearth weakness, now only served as the fuel that propelled Alex forward. "What if I am?" Alex responded, a challenging edge threading through his voice. The air between them crackled with the possibility of a change that was both thrilling and terrifying. He was no longer the scared, uncertain man who had cowered under Jack's shadow. He could feel the layers of himself peeling away, revealing the core of who he wanted to be. Jack's laughter came as a low rumble, devoid of humor. "You think this is just you getting brave? It's a pathetic act. Let us see how far you go when the stakes rise." Stakes. The word struck a chord within Alex. He understood stakes better than most. They were the very building blocks of his old life, where losses were frequent and heartbreak inevitable. This wasn't just about a confrontation. It was about reclaiming every piece of himself Jack had stolen away. "I've already begun to rise," Alex asserted, his resolve hardening. He felt the eyes of other patrons lingering on their conflict, and it was exhilarating. Maybe they sensed what was happening, his transformation, his battle. But he didn't need their validation. This was about him and the demons he was ready to confront head-on. "That's cute, Alex. But you're still living in a fantasy," Jack replied, dismissiveness etched into his features. Layer by layer, Jack's indifference only made Alex stronger. Jack was still relying on intimidation as his main weapon. Yet Alex had embraced the vulnerability that came with honest self-assertion. The fear that had once wrapped around him like a vice began to dissolve. It was suffocated by clarity and purpose. "I'm no longer caught in fantasies," Alex replied, leaning forward, the diner's energy swirling around them. "I'm living in reality, my reality. You want to talk about stakes? How about you let me show you what it looks like to hold your ground with dignity?" The confrontation sparked a shift. It was a revelation not only to Jack, but also to Alex himself. He realized this was more than a face-off. It was a profound inquiry. Could he truly hold his ground against his past, represented by Jack? He sensed this was his moment to evolve beyond simply defending himself. It was about forging his identity, not just deflecting Jack's blows, but creating something genuinely unique. He took a breath, the moment extending into something significant. "You think I'm afraid of you? I'm not playing your old games anymore. This is about growth, not just mine, but also yours. If you want to engage, then bring your substance, Jack, because I'm done with the negligence of our history." A beat passed, and Alex could see the gears in Jack's mind working. There was uncertainty lurking behind the bravado that Jack tried to project. Alex's words had struck a nerve, and the confrontation began to take a turn. Then Jack's expression hardened anew, a flicker of anger mixed with something resembling respect. "Interesting stance. Let us see how that translates when the truth comes to light. You think this is just about you?" The implications hung heavily in the air. To Alex, it transformed into an unsettling challenge. What truths was Jack referring to? Was there more at stake than he realized? The resolve inside Alex wavered, replaced momentarily by a mounting dread. The unknown could be a powerful adversary, and as he stood before Jack, he felt the weight of potential revelations, his own hidden aspects waiting to emerge. Just then, Lily intervened, her voice calm but firm. "Alex, you don't have to do this alone. We'll face whatever comes together. Don't give him the power to shake your foundation." In those few words, Alex discovered a renewed sense of purpose. It was never just about battling Jack. It was about carving out a space to grow, to be authentic not just for himself, but with the people who believed in him. As the tension thickened once more, Alex understood this new chapter was only beginning. With Jack's looming threat at the periphery, he had no choice but to confront the matters swirling beneath the surface of their rivalry. How many secrets lay in wait, and how much deeper was Jack's influence in his life than he anticipated. Each day bore an opportunity for revelation, and Alex knew he would need to unearth truths he hadn't dared to confront. Would he have the courage to face the shadowy remnants of his past that could resurface at any moment? Or would those truths mark a dark twist in his journey to rediscover who he could become? The tension hung in the air like an electric charge, palpable and crackling with possibility. Alex could feel the eyes of the diner, their gazes shifting between the two men as whispers spread like wildfire. But he clung to the foundation Lily had offered him. He wasn't alone, and that thought anchored him against the tide of fear trying to wash over him. Jack leaned back, arms crossed defiantly. So, you're banking on Lily's support, huh? That's your strength? Pathetic. The sneer on Jack's face was as familiar as it was infuriating. Yet this time, the derision rolled off Alex like water off a duck's back. He knew he had an ally in Lily, a reminder that his worth wasn't measured by Jack's scorn. I could use all the help I can get, and you should consider that too. Alex shot back, feeling a newfound fluidity in his words. His past had shackled him long enough. It was time to wield it as a sword rather than armor. And before Jack could retort, Alex had already started to mentally list the layers of power Jack had wielded over him for far too long. With each confrontation, Alex gained clarity about his own desires and ambitions. These past few weeks had been a riptide of emotional turmoil, but now the chaos seemed to clarify the path ahead. He envisioned a world without Jack's specter looming over him, a world where he was free to pursue dreams he had set aside for too long. You think you're tough because you're willing to put up this facade? Jack's voice dripped with disdain, but Alex perceived the tremor beneath it, a weakness he hadn't noticed before. Let's test that theory, Alex challenged, emboldened by his earlier revelations. I'm tired of pretending that you dictate my worth. This is about growth, Jack. You say it's pathetic, but I see strength where you only see vulnerability. Jack fidgeted, shadows of doubt creeping into his previously ironclad confidence. Maybe Alex's transformation was igniting something deeper, an unsettling fear of losing control. For too long, he had pulled the strings, and now they were fraying at the edges. A piercing silence engulfed the diner momentarily, as Jack's bravado seemed to deflate. Alex seized the moment. I've spent too long being your punching bag. I've allowed you to cast shadows over my ambitions, but that's over. You're not my nightmare anymore. You're just a man in my way. With that revelation, a profound weight lifted from Alex's shoulders. He didn't need to mask his intentions with bravado. He could simply embody the person he was becoming, a man determined to carve his own path. This was his choice and his growth, and the soft flicker of empowerment he felt ignited a flame of ambition inside. Jack stepped closer, the familiar intimidating energy crackling in the air between them. You're going to want to watch your back, Alex. This isn't just about you rising. It's about the secrets I hold that could shatter your precious reality. The claim hung heavily. What truths did Jack harbor? The thought churned in Alex's stomach, igniting flickers of anxiety. He needed to be prepared. There was more beneath the surface than he anticipated. He wasn't just fighting Jack. He was fighting the ghosts of their shared history. Just as uncertainty threatened to seep back in, Lily placed a reassuring hand on his arm. Her presence reminded him of the pact they had made this past month, to confront the past together, to face the pain and come out stronger. What will it be, Alex? Lily's voice cut through the tense atmosphere. Her question summoned strength and resolve. I'm ready to uncover whatever you think you hold over me. Jack, Alex declared, standing tall. No more running. No more hiding. If there are truths to be faced, I'll face them head on. It wasn't just about defeating Jack. It was about taking charge of his narrative. As the confrontation hung on a precipice, he felt both excitement and dread swell within. The true challenge lay ahead, and with Jack's threats looming ever closer, Alex had no time to waste. He understood now that every revelation uncovered would draw him closer to the authentic self he craved. With an intense determination coursing through him, he locked eyes with Jack, ready to unearth the depths of their shared past. But as the implications of Jack's statements reverberated in his mind, one question lingered. What exactly would unravel, and how would it redefine the person Alex was fighting to become? The air was thick with unspoken tension as Alex fixed his gaze on Jack, who matched his intensity with a smirk that betrayed both arrogance and unease. The diner's clinking silverware and soft murmur of conversations faded into a distant hum. All that mattered was this confrontation. Alex could feel the weight of the moment, a crucible that would forge him anew or break him down entirely. Secrets, Jack? You've always relied on them. But I've learned that truth is a far more potent weapon, Alex said, each word chosen with precision. He felt a surge of confidence, fueled by the realization that he had been woven into Jack's fabric of manipulation for too long. The scars from their past were his to reconcile, not to hide beneath. Jack's eyes flashed with a brief flicker of uncertainty, and Alex seized the opportunity to delve deeper into the shadows that defined their fraught history. Let us talk about the real truth, shall we? About what that past looks like for both of us. Alex could hear the tremor of vulnerability creeping into his own voice, yet resonated with the strength of conviction. Jack laughed, but it was hollow. You're playing with fire, Alex. I know things about us, about you, things you think are buried. What happens when they rise up? The poorly masked threat hung in the air, but Alex stood firm. Jack's words were not just about what he knew, but a desperate attempt to regain control. I've embraced my past, Alex replied, surprising even himself. What I once saw as shackles, I now see as lessons. You can't threaten what I've already accepted. A wave of adrenaline coursed through him, lifting his chin higher. Each challenge from Jack was growing less menacing, more like a puzzle to solve rather than a trap to evade. Lily's presence remained a steady backdrop, a beacon illuminating the path to resilience. She shifted slightly, making sure he felt her encouraging warmth. You can't hide behind secrets forever, Jack, she added, adding her own strength to the declaration. People will choose authenticity over deceit every time. Jack flinched, then regained his composure. You think this is a game? He spat, anger feeding directly into his bravado. This is history, and it's not as easy to brush aside as you think. He took a step back, attempting to gather his thoughts, perhaps realizing that Alex's growth was not merely a phase, but a compelling narrative that might unseat him. With every beat of the confrontation, Alex was aware that he was reclaiming his narrative. He was learning to step out from the tumult of his past, rather than be submerged by it. The whispers around the diner seemed to echo the sentiment. Your power over me is waning, Jack, Alex continued, his voice steady. What used to terrify me now fuels my drive to succeed. Without those secrets, what are you? As Jack processed this new reality, Alex reframed his thoughts. He could feel a dawning realization. It wasn't just about facing Jack anymore. It was about solidifying his identity. Each word was a sculptor's tool, reshaping the raw material of his character into something formidable. But the flickering tension remained. If you think you're safe just because you found a voice, you're mistaken, Jack warned, his cool demeanor thawing into overt malice. I'm done being your victim, Alex stated, feeling the weight of his words settle as he stepped closer. He had witnessed enough to know the power dynamics had shifted. In the midst of their fiery exchange, he felt a seismic shift within himself, a sense of purpose that transcended fear and propelled him forward. Maybe Jack's influence had been strong, but Alex was building his own fortress, brick by brick, on a foundation of personal honesty and growth. Then let us see what happens when all these walls come crashing down. I'm ready for whatever you've been hiding. Alex pushed, feeling an unyielding warmth of resolve surge within him. As Jack's sharp gaze bore down on him, Alex pondered the consequences now looming larger than ever. He could sense their impending clash wasn't merely physical. It was about laying bare the depths of their shared history, ready to uncover how those buried truths would define the man he was becoming. Would he confront the darkest secrets of their past? Would he come out stronger, Or would it shatter the image he was painstakingly crafting? Uncertainty loomed, and the stakes had never been higher. The only way forward was through. With a heart pounding with anticipation, Alex steadied himself, aware that the next revelation could tip the balance forever. The true battle was only just beginning. The tension crackled like static in the air, and time seemed to stretch as Jack remained silent, his mind grappling with Alex's transformation. The wild defiance was unmistakable, a stark contrast to the young man who once cowered under his threats. Alex felt that shift within himself, too. It was as if he had ignited a fuse that would not extinguish. Instead of backing down, he leaned into the uncomfortable moment. "What are you afraid of?" Jack finally shot back, attempting to reclaim some semblance of control in the conversation. "Are you worried about what everyone here will think when the truth erupts?" Alex glanced around the diner, the faces around him now a blur. Each person was a mirror reflecting aspects of himself: fear, curiosity, doubt, and courage blended into one. "No, Jack, it's you who should be worried," he countered, taking a calculated step closer. "What happens when those buried truths surface and there's nowhere left to hide?" The unease flickering in Jack's eyes only fueled Alex's resolve. This was not just about settling a score. This was about charting a new course for his life and proving to himself that he was more than the sum of his past. "I've learned that your hold on me was built on lies. You may have thought you owned the truth, but truth has a way of evaporating lies," Alex continued, the cadence of his voice steady. "You think you can invoke fear to control me, but I found freedom in my transparency." Jack scowled, the weight of his past purchasing power crashing against Alex's newfound conviction. How could this happen? How could the boy he once held in his grip now rise so defiantly against him? "I'm not afraid of the past," Alex declared with a newfound clarity. "I embrace it. Every mistake, every scar has shaped who I am. How can you really threaten me with something I've already faced?" Their gazes locked, a symbolic battlefield sparking with energy. Alex understood that every word he spoke was more than a defense. It was armor, each syllable a shield against vulnerability. He could feel a shift inside, a dawning realization that he could craft his future free from Jack's reach. "I've started a journey of rebuilding," he continued, fueled by a fire within him. "You may have been a part of it before, but I don't need you to define me anymore. I am carving my own path, guided by authenticity and resilience, not by deceit and manipulation." Jack's breath caught in his throat as he struggled to maintain his facade. The challenge hung in the air, inevitable as a storm gathering on the horizon. Silence enveloped their words, and the diner buzzed around them, clueless to the dramatic confrontation, unaware of the metamorphosis unfolding in real time. Alex could practically envision a map of possibilities unfurling before him, with Jack's betrayal marking dead ends he now refused to follow. The thought offered clarity, pushing aside thoughts of resignation and despair. He was not powerless. He was becoming the architect of his destiny. "I won't let you drag me back into shadows," Alex said firmly. "You can't control me. I've stepped into the light, and I refuse to allow your darkness to dim my spirit." But as he took a breath, the intensity in Jack's eyes shifted from malice to something eerily close to desperation. "You think you've won, Alex? Every step you take away from me just leads you closer to pain," he whispered, his voice low and menacing. In that moment, Alex's confidence faltered slightly, uncertainty creeping in as Jack's words echoed in his mind. What did Jack truly know? What threats lay in waiting, concealed like landmines within their shared history? The blurred boundary between victory and vulnerability loomed larger than ever, but Alex drew strength from his journey. "Then let it come," he said, determination flooding back. "I'll face the pain, the truth, and whatever lies ahead head on." As Jack turned away, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation was far from over. Instinctively, he knew this wasn't just a verbal duel. It was a war of wits about seeing who would break first. What other layers of deception were hidden beneath the surface? Would he have the courage to unearth them? With that tension hanging palpably in the air, he stood firm, wary yet hopeful. The next step on his path would demand more than resolve. It'd require courage to dismantle the fortress Jack had built from their past. What revelations awaited him as he dug deeper? The atmosphere in the diner shifted, a subtle change that rippled through the air, heightening Alex's awareness of his surroundings. He could feel the weight of everyone's gaze, whether curious or complicit, pressing against him. Their faces became more than just blurred reflections. They transformed into an audience, witnesses to this pivotal moment in his life. Taking a deep breath, he resolved to not only continue his stand against Jack, but to also reclaim his narrative from the shadows that had loomed over him for too long. As Jack walked away, the finality of their confrontation stung, yet it also sparked a flame within him. This was not the end point, but just the beginning of his ascent. He had laid the foundation, chiseling away at his former self, and now he felt the concrete hardening, shaping him into who he aspired to be. His thoughts raced, strategizing how to fortify this newfound resolve. Each encounter with Jack would be a step toward further ascending his trust in self and dismantling the barriers Jack had built around him. What now? The question echoed in his mind, bringing with it a sense of urgency. He needed a plan not just to face Jack, but to engage with the world anew. He made a mental note to focus on the things that ignited his passions, areas where he could showcase his strengths rather than merely defending against Jack's onslaught. Determined, Alex reached for the nearest napkin, tearing it into fragments to jot down his thoughts. What skills had he developed in his journey? What new passions had he unearthed? Creativity surged through him as he listed his strengths: communication, empathy, a talent for storytelling. He had learned to connect with people as they shared their dreams, their struggles. Those once invisible threads of shared humanity grew stronger, acting as anchors for him amid the chaos. With Jack looming in the shadows, he recognized that his battles extended beyond their confrontation. The more he grew into his own person, the more susceptible he became to the raw edges of failure, heartbreak, and the uncertainty of forging a new identity. Doubt whispered in his ear as he mulled over potential failures, an unflattering dialogue that threatened to claw at his resolve. Yet, he pushed through reluctantly, observing the voice rather than succumbing to it. In the days that followed, he deliberately engaged with his passion for writing, joining local workshops and immersing himself among like-minded individuals seeking their own breakthroughs. Each session peeled away layers of fear, revealing a sharper, more articulate version of himself. He penned stories that radiated truth, some reflecting aspects of his own struggles, others entirely fictional, allowing him to explore life through different lenses. Yet, with progress came reminders of Jack's relentless presence, lingering like a shadow at the back of his mind. Each creative endeavor required a confrontation with the remnants of his past, the lessons learned, the scars to acknowledge. One night, as he scribbled in a dimly lit cafe, a message popped up on his phone. It was from an old friend, someone eager to check in after years of silence. The message read, "Have you spoken to Jack lately? I heard he is planning something big." The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Alex felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Curiosity mingled with trepidation. Was Jack planning a new attack, or did he have something more insidious in mind? The possibilities swirled like smoke around his thoughts. As he pondered the implications, it dawned on him that Jack would never just let go. The real test loomed over him, one filled with uncertainty. But now, Alex had ideas to face this challenge. He couldn't ignore the stakes at play any longer. Would he have the courage to confront whatever Jack had in store? His heart raced at the consideration of what lay ahead. The pursuit of his own identity had only just begun, and he understood that Jack's influence was merely a fracture in the path of a much broader journey. What new challenges awaited him as he prepared to navigate this uncharted territory? And would he finally confront Jack with the strength he had been cultivating? Alex stood in the familiar booth at Harry S. Diner. The tension from his earlier confrontation with Jack still coursing through him. He felt like a sculptor, chiseling away the darker remnants of his past as he prepared to shape his own future. Strength surged within him, an unmistakable determination birthed from weeks of introspection and growth. He realized that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a profound strength, a tool he could wield alongside his experiences. He had taken active steps in his personal development, collaborating with creative peers, sharing stories, and delving into the tales of resilience that unfolded through his writing. As he embraced new narratives, Alex was no longer shackled to the version of himself Jack had long manipulated. The diner buzzed with life around him, but there was a remarkable sense of clarity in his heart. Each familiar face represented a future of potential rather than the echoes of his past. Just then, Lily approached, her presence inherently calming. "You've been so focused lately," she noted, brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "What's next for you?" Confronting Jack was just the beginning, Alex replied, resolve hardening in his voice. "I need to confront the entire narrative I've been living, the fears, the failures, the weight of being tethered to someone else's vision of me." The warmth of Lily's smile gave him an instant rush of fortitude. Together, they would delve into the depths while defining their own paths. As days turned to weeks, Alex continued to cultivate his voice. He sought opportunities to present at literary events, assembling stories that intertwined his experiences with wisdom gained from overcoming struggles. Finally, he received an invitation to a prestigious storytelling event that echoed the ambitions he had kept at bay for too long. Standing backstage, nerves electrifying his limbs, he remembered the boy who had cowered under Jack's shadow. This was his moment. Here he could prove to himself, to those in the audience, and even to Jack that his evolution was real. As he stepped into the spotlight, he took a deep breath. "I want to share a story about vulnerability," he began, the voice he had honed emerging with unexpected clarity. "It's uncomfortable, it's real, and it's profoundly human. I invite you to embrace the chaos, to lean into truth." The audience listened intently, their faces reflecting the connection Alex sought to forge. Each word carried weight. He felt the tether to his past fading, replaced with something new and powerful. The crowd responded with rapt attention, a spirit of camaraderie shimmering in the air. This was not just about him. It was about every person in that room who had grappled with their narrative, who strived for authenticity despite the ghosts haunting their past. Afterward, as applause resounded through the venue, Alex felt euphoric. He had essentially conquered his internal battles while embracing the story of who he could ultimately be. Jack was no longer a figure of dread looming over him. He was just a chapter in a vast narrative, one he had the power to rewrite. Weeks passed, and he began to hear murmurs of Jack's reaction. It was said that Jack was threatened by Alex's newfound momentum, the power of transformation that left shadows of his influence behind. But Alex didn't fixate on those reports. He had cultivated a solid confidence, reinventing himself far beyond Jack's reach. One late afternoon, as he sat in the same booth where everything had changed, he spotted Jack entering the diner. Anxiety flickered in his chest, but this time it was accompanied by a profound sense of self. Jack's arrival brought an instinct to retreat, yet the realization struck who was Jack, really, now that Alex was no longer a boy defined by fear. He remembered his newfound strength, the resilience he had cultivated with Lily's unwavering support. As Jack approached, Alex felt no need to hide. "You wanted to talk?" He welcomed, his voice steady. It was a challenge, but an invitation, a door opening not just for Jack, but for Alex to assert his place in their narrative. Jack looked slightly taken aback, the facade of confidence cracking. The power had shifted in ways he had never anticipated. "You've made waves?" "Alex," he murmured. "I underestimated you." The tension in the air was palpable, but Alex felt liberated. "You taught me what I didn't want to be, Jack. It turns out I've found value in vulnerability, and that is something you could never take from me." The moment hung between them, an acknowledgement of transformation that whispered of mutual respect, even amid lingering animosity. Alex realized that this was not just about their rivalry. It was about redefining himself outside Jack's narrative. No more games, no more shadows, Alex declared, allowing his shoulders to relax. Jack regarded him, uncertainty in his gaze. Fine, let us see where this newfound path takes you. With that, the confrontation turned not into a battle, but rather into an acceptance of the individual journeys they had embarked upon. Jack was simply a stepping stone in Alex's progression, a reminder of the strength that grows out of struggle. In this diner, where their narratives had intertwined, Alex knew he had achieved more than victory over Jack. He had conquered the doubts within. His journey was now his own, one built on authenticity, confidence, and the bonds forged in the fires of adversity. As he walked away from that pivotal moment, the future felt brighter. His newfound identity was no longer tethered to the shadows of his past, but illuminated by the narrative he embraced, an authentic story woven with resilience, strength, and possibility. And with that, the transformation concluded not an ending, but a defining chapter in the ongoing saga of his life. If you've found inspiration in Alex's journey, you need to subscribe now to keep up with more transformative stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like to fuel our creative journey. Don't wait even one more second. Comment your thoughts and interpretations of this finale. And for those who need a dose of motivation, share this video with at least 5 friends who are ready to conquer their challenges.